Hello, this is Lori from Laura's World. We are going to Colorado this evening. I met by chance this next guest of mine on a Zoom meeting. She would share, and I don't know, I would just kind of really hang on her words. I really, really loved her sobriety. And they always say, look for something that you want. And she definitely had something that I wanted. She's very, very, very much into her recovery. I am glad to say that we have connected and we get to chat on a daily basis. And I'm following her on all kinds of social media because I just absolutely adore her. I love her sobriety, and I am very super excited to have you all meet her. Stay tuned. She'll be here in a little while. And as always, I thank all of you guys for tuning in. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, because we're just trying to get the message out there that recovery is possible. Sit back, relax, and we're going to wait for Miss Seija to join us this evening. So when I asked you to do this, I didn't know a lot about your story. I liked your shares. I like the way that you recover. I love that you recover out loud. I love that you do that and you do a lot for the community. I had listened to a little bit to your story. I was bawling. Because it resonated so much with me, and I didn't realize how much we did have in common. So I'm going to shut up, but I would love to hear your story, any part of it.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad it worked schedule-wise and things come up. Thursday when we were supposed to originally meet, something came up, and I don't know. I think it says so much about people in recovery and how they recover and how we practice those principles in all our affairs by saying, hey, let's just reschedule. We can do this. And instead of holding that grudge, I had this time, forget it. And you're like, all right, cool. So I feel like I have been working on, or, I don't know, in the last couple of months, God is really working on in me is continuing to be that work in progress and showing up authentically, showing up as I am, not trying to show up as something people want me to be. For a long time, I struggled with that people-pleasing piece, even in sobriety. Honestly, I think for me, that's why I didn't really recover out loud for about the first 2 years. I was in a relationship, and he was also in recovery, but he was very quiet about his recovery. And, but I felt like I was living two lives, and I felt like I would, hear or learn something and then not really be able to share it with anyone outside of that circle. Something hit me about 2 years. I spoke at a rehab in Estes Park. A friend had asked me, hey, are you open this weekend? And I said, sure. They said, good, because this is what you're going to do. And I learned then that what I needed when I came into recovery was that almost that old timer hardcore, you want to stay sober, this is what you're going to do. I didn't need to hear, I always say, I didn't need to hear that everything was okay, I was okay, and none of it was my fault, because everything wasn't okay. I wasn't okay, and it was all my fault. I don't think I would still be sober because I went through a lot of really hard things in my first year. And if I was looking for that, those people to join my pity party of, woe is me, I don't know that I would have gotten through a lot of those things sober. I think I would have found, I would have had no mental defense against that first drink when something came up. Oh, well, this is going on. Oh, well, I have to go do this again. And I remember hearing early in recovery that pour me turns into pour me a drink. And I just know that if I had been coddled, or that softer way of, it's all right, we'll be here for you whenever you're ready. I had to be ready when I first came in, or I don't think I would still be sober. I was going through too much at once to not do this thing full force, really.
I hear you. What made you decide, or was there an event that happened that you said, I need to get sober? This is just not working for me.
I think in hindsight, there should have been a lot of turning points. For me, I grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I was married. We had 3 kids. And in August of 2014, we moved out to Colorado. It was exactly 1,000 miles door to door. And when we got here, the only people I knew were the was the couple who my now ex-husband was going to be working for. That's it. I didn't know another soul out here. I had two friends. I had found out that I had two friends who I went to high school with who lived out here, but I had not really connected with them yet. So from August of 2014 until my sobriety date of April 10th, 2015, I literally just isolated and drank all day. My older two kids, they are now 19, 15, and 11. When I came into sobriety, they were 13, 9, and 4. So my older two could walk to school, and I stayed home with my youngest. And I don't know if it was that perfect storm of being out here and being isolated. Most of my family was still back in the Chicagoland area. We were in a group text. I could text and they would have no idea what was going on. So I really hid it from everybody, including my ex-husband for a long time. Probably, 100 times at least during that time where I kind of had that almost moment of clarity, like something is not right. I mean, I'm literally waking up in the middle of the night, feeling like my heart is going to beat out of my chest, cold sweats, and knowing that the only thing I could do is take a drink to settle that. And I just remember thinking like, there's got to be more to this. And really, when I turned 30, I think things shifted a little bit. I started to hang out with some old friends again, started to go out a little bit more. So between 30 and 33, I think my alcoholism was kind of amping up. On April 9th, it was a Thursday night. One of my sisters flew in from Virginia, and I've always been really close with her. And my ex-husband went and picked her up from the airport, and I don't remember anything after that. So I just remember waking up in the middle of the night and I had a cup in my hand and it had completely spilled on my lap. And I looked over and she was sitting next to me and she had tears in her eyes. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I was afraid that if I fell asleep, you wouldn't wake up." And I said, "That's a little dramatic, huh?" And she said, "Go look in the mirror if you want to see dramatic." And apparently I had run into the door frame and I just had blood all over my face and it was dry at that point. And so I fell back asleep and woke up, in the morning, and she said, "You need to go out to the driveway." And he was out in the driveway and he had two large black bags full of empty vodka bottles. And he said, "You need to go to rehab, you need to go to meetings, and you need to talk to a counselor, or I'm taking the kids and going back to Chicago." There's a lot of really vivid moments for me in early sobriety where I thought, okay, this is it. And that was really the first of many, I think. But I could tell you everything that was happening around me, what I was wearing, what he was wearing. And I just remember looking in his eyes and saying, "You'll never take my kids from me." And so I called, 15 rehabs that day. I called all these places and she stayed for the weekend. She drove me and the kids around. He wouldn't let me have the car keys. And since that day, I haven't had a drink. And I just got to work. And I remember walking away from that conversation feeling like the elephant was off my back. And
was that the first time he had ever said anything to you? Or anybody had said anything to you, really? I mean, you knew, obviously, but was this the first, listen, you've got to do something? Or
honestly, I'm sure they all thought it. There were times where, I fell off. We were at a family party with his side of the family and I fell off the deck backwards. And, it wasn't high, but he was embarrassed. I wasn't even coherently enough there to be embarrassed, but we left right, so there were those little things, but he never said, "Hey, do you think you have a drinking problem?" And honestly, I think in the conversations we have been able to have since, I think that I really hid it from him so well. He would work long hours and then he would work overnight. So I'd get the kids to bed and I would just drink all night. So he wouldn't really know that I'd been drinking all day. And in March, so a month before sobriety, I was violently throwing up and just, thinking it was the flu, but I couldn't stop throwing up. And it went on for 2 or 3 days. And I never told him until, a couple of years into sobriety, but I didn't tell him. He took me to the emergency room and I didn't tell him that it was because I was drinking. All of those things that I hear newcomers say, the lying, the manipulating, the sneakiness. I mean, what a waste of time all of that was. So that was really my, okay, this is it. And still, when people come into recovery and I hear them say, "I just don't know how to not drink." And, all I can say from Thursday the 9th to Friday the 10th, something shifted and it wasn't me. I couldn't keep myself sober for 6 hours. And, here today, I sit at 6.5 years, and there had to be something greater than me doing that work. That was it. And I think it took me a while, kind of in that quiet sobriety period, to really understand what that was, but coming to that realization that God has done so much work. The times where where I would black out and have no idea what happened, where I would get home and I had no clue how I got home. That wasn't me. I think I don't know if I'd be alive. By how I was drinking, so much damage was done. It felt internally and to my external world. And, that's why I love the part where we talk about, I will not regret my past nor wish to shut the door on it. And I regretted my past for a long time, but now I get to I get to really use my past as one of my greatest assets. That's the only way I can relate to other people in early recovery. I go to a women's sober living every Sunday night, and all of these women are very new. And one of them said to me once, well, how would you know? Like, she kind of said it off the cuff, and she had gotten there about a week and a half earlier. And I was in the middle of reading something and sharing, and she said, well, how'd you know? And I just stopped and I was like, whoa, I just want to make sure we're clear here. I'm not here to talk at you, preach at you, tell you what to do. I am here as a fellow woman in recovery. I need this meeting as much as you guys do. And I know, because I have been where you are, at that place, thinking life will never get better. Even if I've been sober for 60 days, it's never going to get better. I don't have a job. I don't have any of that. And so when I'm able to open up and share parts of my story with them, it builds that trust. It builds that common bond. It builds, the relationships that I think recovery is meant to give me and has given me beyond my imagination.
So tell me, I know you still do a lot of meetings. You're involved with a lot of different projects as well to get the word out there. And why did you decide that you thought that Recovering Out Loud was part of your recovery?
Again, I kept quiet for, it had to be at least a year and a half. Being able to look at it in hindsight, I think a lot of it was the relationship that I was in. There was a lot of ego involved where no one's going to know that I'm an alcoholic. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can live this way. It felt very secretive. And, so I prayed about it for a long time because I felt stuck. I felt like I wasn't being me. And I know that, I was sharing with someone the other day, I had to take this spiritual gifts test for a job about 10 years ago now, a little bit more. And my gifts were leadership, teaching, and discernment. And I just prayed. I remember I was about a year and a half sober, and I just prayed, like, I feel like I went through all of this stuff, through some really hard things, even in sobriety. I feel like there's a bigger purpose for me than to just, pick up my 2-year chip, pick up my 3 and share once in a while at a meeting. And that's it. I just felt like I have been given this second chance. I have been given this voice, and I want to do good. I want and really, I think one of the catalysts for it was seeing all of these mommy wine culture things. And I remember saying to someone, it really bothers me seeing those things, like mom deserves a drink. And she said, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, what can I do about it? You're talking, these big retailers, big alcohol. And she said, so do something good. And, that's really why I try to stay as connected as I can with people who have a lot more experience than me. And, you said at the very beginning about people who you meet, whose recovery you want and kind of want to emulate, and, some that you might not necessarily want to. And I just remember, after talking with that woman, I don't want to celebrate 10 years of sobriety one day and realize I've done 1 year 10 times. I want to growth. I want a purpose. I want to feel like I'm doing good. And so after I don't know, I just posted something and it was like, celebrated 18 months of sobriety or something. And all of a sudden my inbox blew up. And at this point I had like 1,000 people following me on Instagram or something. And I was like, where did all these people come from? And it was like, well, how did you do that? And I was like, how did I do it? I know people with 40 years of sobriety. This is nothing. And they're like, well, I only have 5 days. And I was like, well, then I can help you. I mean, I can talk to you. What I've learned is like when I help other people or go into a situation with the intention of helping someone else, I'm not able to get them sober and I'm not able to keep them sober, but it always keeps me sober every single time. It has worked for 6.5 years. And I won't stop. And when I hear things like, gosh, what you said really helped me, or, thanks for being vulnerable, I think like, I literally think to myself, how else is there to be like this? I'm just trying to show up as who I am and maybe show someone else that life in recovery is not boring. It's not something to be hidden. It is truly life-changing. I get to find out who I really am so that I can be who I'm supposed to be in every other relationship in my life. And I think since then, it's just, with those videos, someone had said to me, you share things that a lot of people can relate to, but have you realized truly what a voice you have? And she said, I challenge you for a week to just share a video. And I was like, okay, well, what do I say? And she's like, just pray about it first. And if I could give any bit of advice, that would be it for every part of recovery and any situation I go into is just pray about it first. That's it. When I do that, I'm not alone walking into it. When I shared up at Estes Park, I remember telling my youngest, I think he was about 7, I said, I'm really nervous. And I was like writing these note cards. And he said, Mom, it's your story. Just pray about it and ask God for his words. I don't know. That was kind of the stepping stone to realizing that I can't change all of those things. But what I can change or do my part in changing is that stigma around what an alcoholic looks like, what an alcoholic sounds like. My life was towards the end, being able to relate to people and say, my bottom doesn't have to be the same as yours. The elevator got off on does not have to be the same. This isn't a competition. When I'm asked to share, and they'll say, oh, just, qualify yourself a little first. And that always kind of irritates me because I think I'm here in this chair. Is that not qualification enough? I realized that I was so far down a negative path that I wanted better. Isn't that good enough? And so when I share that experience, strength, and hope, I share my experience as minimally as I need to, because the drunkalogs won't keep me sober today. What will keep me sober is that strength, the meat in the middle. In my first year, my ex-husband ended up filing for divorce when I was about 3 weeks sober. I had to go to a parental responsibilities evaluator, a substance abuse evaluator. I had no job. I had literally not a dime in a bank account with my name on it. And I was still feeling hopeless. And I thought, geez, if this is it, why am I not drinking? And I just kept doing the deal every day. And I just knew that if I did this deal, life would eventually get better if I kept doing what I heard people say. When I sat there and would share and say, I don't know what I'm doing, but what I was doing got me right here. So what are you guys doing to keep going? How do you get through that stuff? And then I ended up getting through that stuff. And then my dad died 5 days before I had a year of sobriety. And drinking was not my first thought. When I got that call at 5:30 in the morning, my first thought was reach out to people in recovery and just tell them I need help. And I got my kids to school that morning. I went to a noon meeting that I always went to, and I just sat and cried, and people just loved on me. I allowed people to love on me. And that's one of the biggest changes, I think, for me is not just sharing where I'm at, but allowing people in to walk with me through that. About a year ago, actually, I really connected with Jim, who owns Valor Fitness. Mm-hmm. And last November, I went out and we served on Skid Row. And then in January, he started sending me hats and gloves and long sleeve shirts and socks. And we packed sack lunches, my kids and a couple other friends who I know here and who have connected with Valor as well. We went and served downtown Denver 3 or 4 times. So he came in town in April, and we went and served, and my kids have gotten to come with every time. I think the biggest piece of me sharing my recovery out loud is that I literally wear my recovery out loud. And so people will stop me all the time and say, you know, oh my gosh, I love that shirt, or I'll wear it to the gym. And everywhere I go, people say something. And I'm like, see, you know, we are part of communities and PTAs and soccer coaches and families. And so when I feel like when I wear my sober mom shirts, you know, my daughter wore one of my sober AF shirts to school. No, Mom, I thought I would get in trouble, but someone said something and I said, it stands for sober and fun, you know, like that. And so I wear a different shirt every Sunday night when I go to this sober living. And about a month ago, every week, the ladies are like, oh my gosh, I love your shirts. And so about a month ago, I texted Jim and I said, hey, can you send me some shirts to give to them? They always say something. And that's why I support Valor, because, you know, I hear a lot of companies in recovery and outside will say, you know, oh, 25% of the proceeds go to this. Mm-hmm. And they might, and they might not. I don't know. But I do, from being the hands and feet on Skid Row and downtown Denver, that Jim and Valor really stand behind that. And so that every item purchased equals an item donated. So he sent me some for the women's sober living. They were literally crying when I gave them the shirts. And I was like, guys, they're just shirts. And they were like, no, but we get to wear these when we go to meetings and when we go to the library or when we get to go on an outing. And I was like, you're right, you know, and you get to be proud of your recovery. And then I got to bring some shirts last week to a friend of mine's sober living, and it is just pure joy on their faces and in turn mine.
Girl, you have no idea. I heard some things today from you that I've never heard before. And that's what it's all about. It's just like, wow, like, you know, just different perspectives, keeping my mind open. You know, what I'm doing right now is not necessary. I would have never thought of doing 5 years ago. I would have been like, oh God, no, I can't do that. I don't know if I'm going to be doing it 5 years from here. All I know is what's feeling really good to me right now. And this is feeling great to me, to my soul. I'm learning so much more about my own sobriety. Mm-hmm. That there's more to it, you know, that there is more to it than just not drinking, you know. And there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, well, you know, you know, well, you've been doing this for so long. Do you still need those meetings? And yeah, I do. I like them. I don't feel like I want to go. I like the connection. I could just sit there and not say a word and just feel like I'm home. And that's what I love about it, because we all have this connection, you know.
Someone asked me that the other day, you know, how much longer?
Yeah, how much longer?
I said, or why do you still go or something? And I said, you know, part of still going is because when I came in and I had 2 weeks sober, there were people there with 6.5 years of sobriety that I needed to hear from. And if I stop going, and if other people stop going, who's going to be there for the newcomer? Who's going to be there for me when I was on my first day if people didn't keep coming?
Thank you so much for doing this with me. I so appreciate it. I appreciate you. I look forward to our daily little text. I love when you send me things and I can send them back, and it's just a connection. Even if we can't talk, you know that I'm thinking about you all the time. Thanks, Seija. You take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening, darling, and I'll be in touch with you. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great night. Thank you.